Welcome, everyone. I hope you're doing well, and thank you for joining us this evening for a very special July community webinar, Real-Time Report Writing with Alan Carson, a culmination of the last 3 months of Alan's teachings and insights that I'm sure you all are as eager as me to hear and learn about. But before I pass the reins over to you, Alan, I'm going to explain how people can participate in tonight's webinar, a little bit of formality. So you're going to see a control panel on the right side of your screen, folks. At any point, you can expand or minimize that control panel by clicking this orange button. Once you need to ask a question, you can expand it. You want to change your audio. Otherwise, just hide it, get it out of your screen. There are 2 audio options. You can select computer or phone call. So if you're having trouble hearing, you can select phone call. There'll be a toll-free number you can dial in and listen by phone. I think beyond audio, one of the most important things is how you can actually ask questions. There's a question section, and I encourage you to ask any questions throughout the presentation. We will store them for the Q&A, and we will make sure to try to address each and every question we get tonight. Now, keep in mind that the presentation is being recorded and will be available for replay on our YouTube channel on Friday, July 17th, and a link will be included in our follow-up email sent on that very same day. Now, my name is Brian. I'm the onboarding training specialist at Horizon. I'm going to get out of your hair and audio in just a second, but if there's anything I can do after the presentation, please feel free to reach out to me by phone or email. I'm always here to help you with anything Horizon related. And the man of the hour, Alan Carson. How you doing tonight, Alan?
I'm doing well, thanks, Brian.
Excellent. Oh, it's great to have you here, Alan. Everyone's eager to hear you. And I'm going to pass the reins over to you right now, and you can take it away, good sir.
All right, thank you, Brian. Let me see if I can get my screen working properly.
You're live and working properly.
Good stuff. All right, so let's go. So it's funny how, as I do these things, the more I do it, the more I have to say. So I've got a ton of stuff to cover tonight. I should probably try and get moving quickly and try not to waste too much time. As Brian said, feel free to ask questions. We'll hang around at the end and answer questions. Happy to do that. What are we going to try and accomplish tonight? We're going to try and talk about writing reports. Now, I can't compress a whole 2.5-hour inspection plus report writing into an hour session tonight, but we're going to do the best we can. So I'm going to ask you to focus on the process rather than the technical stuff. So you can nitpick the inspection contents if you want, you're welcome to do that, but that's not really the point of the exercise. We've tried to keep it kind of straightforward. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to simulate being on an inspection with a client there. Now, I understand you don't always have a client, and if you don't, you can absolutely write the whole report using Horizon Mobile. But when you have a client, I'm going to encourage you to just capture the minimum amount of data and pay attention to your client. And that way you can finish off when you're done offsite and you give the client the attention they want and need. I always explain to the client at the beginning, I'm going to be using my phone to collect data for the report. I'm not texting my girlfriend or doing anything rude. When I'm using my phone, I'm actually recording data for the inspection. Okay, so I'm going to come back to what we've talked about over the last 3 sessions. And before we start, I'm hoping you've all got your tools sharpened. And by that, I mean, do you have Horizon set up properly? Horizon is this super powerful, super flexible tool, but I want you to make it super simple because you remember how I harp on less is more. I want you to get rid of all the stuff you don't need and get focused on what you do. And that focus should be on everything in the report should answer the question, how does this help your client? Now, Brian, I'm going to ask a question here about presets. And this is a tool in Horizon that allows you for every report item to put in location, task, time, notes, and whether or not it goes to the summary. And it saves you a ton of time. Brian, I would love to know how many people have taken advantage of the preset tool in Horizon. Can we do a real quick poll on that?
Sure, Alan. I've just launched the poll. Everyone should see that momentarily. We will give it, I'd say, 30 seconds or so, and we'll see what the results are. So far,
Right.
we're getting a 50-50 mix.
Okay, and a perfectly acceptable answer is what the heck is a preset? So I understand that that a lot of folks have not yet discovered that tool.
All right, so we've got a couple more seconds. All right, perfect. We are at the 30-second mark, and let's share the results here. So I'm not sure if you get to see them on screen there, Alan, but 46% said yes, 54% no, and we had 83% of our essentially, right now we're at a little over 200 audience participate. So thank you for the participation, folks. And back to you, Alan.
Good stuff. So kind of 50-50 in big numbers. That's good for the 50% who are using it, and a terrific opportunity for those who aren't yet. Okay, so in my overview of the inspection process tonight, we're going to start out with a couple of things we do before the inspection, and then we're going to talk about during the inspection, and that's where we'll spend most of the time. And then we'll do a little bit on after the inspection, what you do at the end. So remember, field data collection when the client is with you, and we're going to polish the report, proof it, and publish it offsite after the inspection. Now, what happens before the inspection? Well, there's two things. We have to get the work order off the web and onto Horizon Mobile. And again, we're focusing on using Horizon Mobile for the inspection today. And then we want to get the right report open. And this sounds a bit trivial, but interestingly, we do from time to time have people enter data in the wrong report. So the good news is when you go to the screen and you will see the inspection address at the top, just take a second and a half to make sure that you have the right inspection open. If you've got 2 or 3 inspections for the day on your home screen, then you want to make sure you open the right inspection. Otherwise, your day gets considerably longer. Okay. You can also, and you can do this before on the web, or you can do it as soon as you download it to mobile, either one. But you should, of course, be looking at the work order. Who's going to be attending the inspection? Has the contract already been accepted? And you know my position on that. 100% of the time, I want that contract accepted before you ever leave your office. Has the client paid? Again, same thing. I want to be paid before the inspection begins. Are there any ancillary services? Are you going to be doing anything else? You're going to be doing, we do thermal scans, for example. So what is the client looking for? Are there any notes about concerns the client might have? Anything else that you've got for that work order? So a quick review gets you in good shape, and work order shows you all the details on the left, the map on the right, and there are lots of places maps are available lately. Next point, I think if you're not 15 minutes early for your inspection, I think you're late. Anyone remember Vince Lombardi and the Green Bay Packers? They used to call it Lombardi time. Everything was 15 minutes early. I really would love for you to be 15 minutes early all the time. And I would like you to take advantage of that 15 minutes to look at the neighborhood, see what kind of topography there is. Are we at the bottom of a valley, the top of the hill, somewhere in between? What are the other houses like? What is your house like? Is this an infill house in an older neighborhood? Is it a big subdivision where all the homes are the same? What are you looking at? It's also a terrific time to grab your title page photo. You can do that before the client arrives. Another reason I like to be there early is I think it puts you in better control if you're waiting for the client rather than the other way around. So in Horizon, you can very quickly just click menu, go to title page photo, and I've said here that it takes about 30 seconds. That's actually probably a bit of a stretch. But you want to take title page photo. I'm going to recommend that you do it in landscape mode because I think the photos look better on the title page that way. And it is about as simple as clicking title page photo. You can either, if you've taken a photo earlier and you have it on your phone's gallery, you can use that. In most cases, you're just going to click camera. You're going to take the photo, landscape mode, hit the button, use the photo, because if you don't like it, you get to redo it. And it's going to tell you that it uploaded it. So the nice thing is now that title page photo is not only captured, but it's in the right place on the title page of the report. You don't have to touch it again. You can forget it, you're done. So the whole thing before the inspection starts you've got that out of the way. And I love knocking things off as quickly as I can, ideally before the client gets there. Now, the other thing you can sometimes do is apply a template. And for those who are not familiar, a template is a group of items that you have pre-selected and named so that you can make a whole bunch of entries really quickly. And so you click your templates button, and it allows you, in this case, the house that we're looking at is less than 25 years old for sure. Looking at it, it's probably 15, 20 years old from the outside. So it's a subdivision home, less than 25 years old. I've got a template for that. And by simply clicking that button, I just added 27 items to my report. So I added my descriptions and limitations that would fit that house. So most houses in a subdivision like this are going to have an asphalt shingle roof, poured concrete foundation, conventional wood joist floor, truss roofing, vinyl siding, and so on. Now, you may or may not have that situation, but if you're in an area where there's lots of houses the same, you can set up templates to make that super quick. So we've taken care of a bunch of required items. I'm going to suggest your required items for what you need to put in for descriptions and limitations. Depending on what standards you use, probably around 50 of those. We just knocked off half of them in one click with the template. So that's a pretty good step in the right direction. And now we're ready to move forward. Okay, so we've got that done. And I'm going to say, when we start inspecting, we're going to go through the client introductions. You're going to do whatever it is you do to get started. And then you're going to follow your routine. You're going to do your inspection. You might do a 2-pass. We typically do, we try and do it the same way every time. And I'm going to tell you, there's no right or wrong way, but I want you to do it the same way every time to make sure that you get into a rhythm. So starting on the roof, exterior pass clockwise, another pass counterclockwise, going through the house inside once, going through the house a second time in the opposite direction, perhaps checking the heating or cooling operation. Whatever your routine is, set it up and stick to it. In the process of going through the inspection, I want you to only focus on the defects. You have to look at the whole house to find the defects, and that's going to be important in a minute. But I want you to think about, what are the conditions I want to report? And I'm going to say that as you look at all those, you're going to be noticing whether the roof is asphalt shingles, whether the gutters are aluminum or galvanized, what the siding is, what the framing is, what the furnace and water heater are, all that kind of stuff you're going to pick up. But I don't want you to stop and peck away at your phone recording the descriptions and limitations. It takes too long, it's too slow, it's too disruptive. So focus on the conditions, the defects that you're going to report. And then the only other things I want you to do is, I want you to capture a description photo of the things you want to put in, just as your default every inspection things. We always take a photo of the roof when we're up on it or looking at it, whether you're using a drone or an iStick or walking the roof. I want the photo of the roof so that they know that you looked at the roof. Same thing with attic. If there's a crawl space, same thing. We do electrical panel cover on, electrical panel cover off to prove that we took the cover off. Same thing with the furnace. And that's our default list of photos that we use. So it's about half a dozen, not a big deal. And again, I want your inspection routine to be looking at conditions and picking up those few photos that you need that are your kind of placeholder photos. Okay. The amazing thing about search is that it is all keyword driven. So you don't need to navigate. And I have these discussions with people all the time. Trust me, search is faster than navigation. Navigation is dead. Long live search. You got to get your head around it. And I know it's scary, and I know it's weird, and I know it's uncomfortable at first, but everything new and better is uncomfortable at first. So I think it's going to be amazing. If you're not using it, give it a chance. Don't give it 5 minutes and give up. Give it a chance. You have 2 ways of entering data. You can dictate because you've got a phone with better voice recognition than anything that's been around ever. And you can also type in your words. You can also type them in as abbreviations, because search is super smart. It'll pick up a part of a word. It'll pick up the words in the wrong order. And we also have a secret thing in the background that if you type in a word that's not in our database, but it's the same as, it'll find it for you. So if you say girder and we say beam, when you type in girder, it'll still take you where you'll need to go. And the same thing with receptacles and outlets, for example, outdoor and exterior, all that kind of stuff. So trust search a little bit, and the more you know your database, the more you get comfortable with it, the faster and better it's going to be. Okay. One caveat, you actually have to say the words. You have to say the right words. If you're going to dictate, by the way, it's not asphalt roofing, it's asphalt. There's no H before the P, okay? So if you say asphalt roofing, the voice dictation might be tripped up. Now you're lucky because some people call them comp shingles or composition shingles. Well, Horizon picks up that too. So if you do that, that's great. Now, speaking of sharpening your tools, have all of you gone through, and if you use the word asphalt, have you gotten rid of all the comp shingle entries in Horizon and vice versa? And then secondly, just real quick, because I know nobody on this call makes this mistake, but it is, by the way, efflorescence, not effervescence. Effervescence is the bubbles in your drinks. Okay, there's the glamour shot of the roof that we're going to take. And so we're in Horizon. We're going to hit the search button down at the bottom. Looks like a little magnifying glass. And we're going to type in whatever we need to type into the roof. In this case, we're going to type in ASP because that's the beginning of asphalt, slow because that's slopes, just to differentiate from a flat roof, and description. And there we go, we get one entry appear. So as I type those in, the entries will automatically start to appear. In this case, we end up with just one, but as you start to type the first couple of words, you'll get more entries. And then when you get everything in you need, you'll get perhaps one or two. And it's really nice too, because it highlights the words that you have typed in. So you can see exactly, yeah, this is what I'm looking for. So now I'm also going to say that tap and hold is your friend. And I'm going to say it a second time because it's important. Tap and hold is your friend. Some people call it a long tap. I don't really care. What I want you to do is tap and hold on that. And because when you do that, it's going to do two things. It's going to make that entry in the report for you. And secondly, it's going to invite you to add a photo. And my best practices belief is when you're on site, when you've got a client there using Horizon Mobile, I want you to capture the issue and take your photo. So there you go. You click add photo, it gives you your photo screen. I like landscape photos. You can do portrait if you want. I think they look better in Horizon and landscape. You press the button, you use the photo, away you go. Then you come back to a save screen. You can add, this is your notes. You can add a note here, but I'm going to encourage you, because you've got a client, just to go straight, hit save. And when you hit save, you're right back to your search screen. Okay, so we're going to carry on with the inspection. Up on the roof, we didn't find any defects. We just did our glamour shot of the roof. Okay, and you can clear the search screen. We had asphalt slope description up there. You can hit the little X or hit the cancel button to clear your search screen so it's clear. Okay, let's carry on. So, oh, here we are. We're still up on the roof and we notice the gutters are clogged. So, pretty simple. We're going to get rid of the asphalt slope roof and we're going to type in clogged gutters. So you can say clogged gutters, that's fine. You can type in clogged gutters or gutters clogged, whatever you like, or you can just type in CLO and then GUT. That works too. There's more than one way to skin a cat. And as I go through the exercise tonight, you can see some of the ways I do things and you say, but I do it a different way. And you know what? That might be just fine. I'm not saying this is the only way, the best way, or the right way. I'm saying it's a efficient, streamlined way. It's not the only way. Okay, on my clogged gutters, I said tap and hold was your friend. Again, you've got that search result, so you're going to tap and hold that. It's going to bring up the add photo screen. And oh, I should probably mention, I'll pick it up later, never mind. So we're going to take this photo, and yes, it's a good photo, we'll use it. And we're back to our notes screen, but oh, wait a minute, we didn't have this last time. Do you notice that location, task, and time are already filled in? How magical is that? That's the power of presets. For those of you who don't use it, you can set these once and then never have to enter them again. So clogged gutters, you're always going to tell people to clean them, right? And the location is usually, the gutters don't get clogged in one spot because the leaves fall all over. So you're probably going to put in various. You can change it if you want right here, but is it a big problem? Is it an urgent issue? Oh, it's a regular maintenance item. You can use different words if you want, but you can set this up one and done, forget it. And by the way, here's a very clever way to set up presets. Go into a recent report you've done, reopen the report, and take all the good stuff in there and say, yeah, this applies all the time, and just make those presets. You can do it in one click for each item on the note screen. It's absolutely brilliant. Saves a ton of time. Okay, let's carry on. So we've got our location, task, and time preset. We're not going to bother with notes. We hit save, and we're going back. So now, next issue that we find is all these beautiful shrubs are right up tight against the house, really tight against the house. So we're going to tell people, hey, these shrubs need to be trimmed back. So in this case, I'm going to type in shrubs. And as soon as I type in the word shrubs, I say, holy smokes, there's only 2 results. Which one do I want? Okay. Yeah, too close. There we go. We've got one is a limitation and one is a recommendation. Shrubs too close to the building. There we go. So we've got that. So we'll tap and hold. We'll take the photo. That's in the middle of the screen. And then once we've taken the photo, then we get to our save screen, our note screen. And again, we've got some presets here. We don't have location because you don't know where the shrubs are going to be typically, but you've got your trim and you've got your regular maintenance. It's not a big deal, right? Trimming the shrubs is not a huge problem with the house. People should not walk away from the home because of that, but it's something they should do. So there you go. Takes care of that. And we're rolling along. Now, sometimes you get through the inspection of a system and you don't have any recommendations to offer. Now, if you don't say anything about that system, we have found that clients sometimes wonder if you actually inspected it. So our policy is if you don't have any recommendations, we actually put that in the report. So we would say, it's in our overview section, so you can type in roof overview, you can type in no roof recommendations. For the advanced users, if you type in ROO, short for roof, and VIE, short for overview, then you get there too. By the way, when a word like overview appears and the unusual letter combinations of VIE, when you see that, it's a really good idea to just type in those letters. If you type the word over starting at the beginning, you get a lot of results. So for the advanced users, you'll come to realize which words have unusual letter combinations. It doesn't matter. You don't have to type in the whole word, and you don't even have to type in the beginning of the word. My recommendation is typically 3 letters. If you're just going to type in no, that's 2 letters, and that's fine. But other than that, 3 letters, sometimes 4. And as you type the letters, again, this dynamic screen will give you the results. So if you get too many results, if I see 5 or 6 or 10, I'll just keep typing more letters until it shortens my list. So the power of search is absolutely amazing. It is so quick. It is so simple. And by the way, you'll notice, I haven't made a big deal of it, but there is very little navigation. I am not drilling down and then drilling back out. I am not going up and down, in and out. I am staying in the search section. It is so simple. It is so easy. Okay, so there's my roof overview. What did I say about tap and hold? This one's a little different because I'm not going to have a photo, but I'm still going to tell you to do tap and hold. So you're going to tap and hold. It's going to invite you to put in a photo, but because we're just saying there's no recommendations, you just hit cancel. It's the quickest way to stay in your rhythm and to get where you need to be, because when you hit cancel, you're going to go right back to your search screen, and that's where you want to live. Okay. Remember I said to get rid of the entries in there, you're going to hit the X or the cancel button, either one, to make your next entry. But let's carry on with the inspection. Okay, we're going around the outside. Here we have a deck, and we've got an electrical receptacle on the deck, but it looks kind of weird to me. It looks like an interior receptacle. That's not a weatherproof receptacle. What the heck? So I'm going to say that that's an issue. There's a close-up of it. By the way, I love when you take 2 photos. I love when you take a macro photo and a micro photo up close for a couple of reasons. Two photos side by side look great in the horizon report, landscape or portrait, by the way, although I'm going to come back to recommending landscape. And the other thing is the macro micro avoids the need to be adding circles, arrows, blocks, all that kind of stuff. I'm not a huge fan of all that stuff, by the way. I think it's substantially a waste of time. So a macro micro gives you that far out look and the up close look. It's crystal clear to the client what the problem is. So we're going to describe this issue, outdoor outlet. So I mentioned earlier that if you type in outdoor outlet, that's terrific. But if you type in exterior receptacle, that works too, because the keyword search power of Horizon has that flexibility in the background for you. So you're going to get the result you want. So you're going to select your issue. What did I say? Tap and hold. Brings you to your photo screen. You take your picture with your camera, and then you come back to your save screen. And again, we've got some presets in here. So when you have an exterior receptacle that isn't suitable for outdoor use, you want it replaced. And is it urgent? Well, heck yeah, it's an electrical safety issue, right? So yeah, we're going to do that. So as soon as practical, let's get that done. Now, what else am I noticing about this deck? Well, as I walk around it, I don't have any access at all underneath it. I can't tell. I can't get a look under there. So I'm going to type in something radical like no access below deck. And if I just typed in no deck access, that would work too. Okay, so there you go. Again, the defect or the limitation in this case comes up, and we can tap and hold. Two schools of thought on this one. When we do tap and hold, we can add the photo to the limitation. You've heard me say before that the photos of limitations aren't terribly valuable to your customers because the limitation is for your benefit, not theirs, right? So I think the limitation should be documented in the report, but I'm not so sure you need a photo for their benefit. So you have two strategies, two ways to do it. You can do what I've just showed you, which is tap and hold, take the photo, and it'll be in there. When you go to do your polishing of the report, you can deselect that photo so the client doesn't have to see it. It stays in Horizon, it stays attached so that you will always have reference to it in case somebody ever comes back to you, but it doesn't clutter up the report. Another strategy you could use if you just wanted to grab a limitation photo is dump it into a category we have called spare photos. That way it takes the photo, associates it with the report, but doesn't attach it to any single item in the report. So a couple ways again to approach things, but either way works equally well. Chose to do it this way here. Okay, so we take our picture, use the photo, save it. Again, we can put in a note if we want. Sometimes, depending on how severe the limitation is, you've heard me say, if it's a big deal limitation, like I can't get into an attic, I can't get into a crawl space, then I want you to make a recommendation to tell people that they need to get access to it and they need to get it inspected. Doesn't have to be by you, but it's not enough just to say I couldn't inspect the attic. Now, under a deck is a much more minor issue, so I don't feel all that strongly. If you do, by all means, make a recommendation. You've got room for a note here, although remember, if you add a note, you're still in the limitations section of the report, and the clients, as they read the report, will quickly understand that they're going to pay attention to the recommendation section and not so much the limitations. If you're going to make it a recommendation, I suggest you put it specifically in the recommendations section to make sure your client notices it. Okay, this one everybody's familiar with, the downspouts discharging too close to the building. And there's another shot. Now I'm going to give you a little sidebar here. This is something that most home inspectors would automatically write up, and that's fine. However, I'm going to point out two or three things about this one. What are these downspouts attached to? Well, that's a garage. Is there a basement under a garage? Usually no. Is there a significant water penetration problem? Much less so on a garage than in a house. And we've got sidewalks coming from the driveway around to the back entrance to the house. So it makes perfect sense at one level to recommend that those downspouts be extended. But you can understand how the homeowner may not be enthusiastic about doing that. So you may say, this is a standard recommendation we make, but for these reasons, it may not be necessary. You may want to monitor it and adjust yourself accordingly. If you have a problem, extend the downspouts. There are downspout extensions, of course, nowadays that are hinged that pop up out of the way, and so you can suggest those if you like. But I want you to be thinking, not just doing. I don't want a database to drive the way you inspect. I want your brain to drive the way you inspect. So this is a no-brainer, except that I think it warrants a discussion with the client as to why this may not be as critical as it usually is. Okay, so same process. You type in downspout too close, didn't even spell too correctly, doesn't matter. You get the tap and hold, brings you to your photo, you get the message, and then once the photo's added, again, we've got our presets telling us what the task is and the time if necessary. And again, because you don't know where the downspouts are going to be that are problematic in the house, I wouldn't suggest you preset a location. Remember, you can edit them if you get it wrong, but why put in something that you're going to have to edit most of the time? So my suggestion is just do the ones that you're probably going to be happy with the vast majority of the time. Okay, here we have an air conditioner. There's a lot right about this installation. There's the data plate. The O24 tells me that it is a 24,000 BTU per hour unit or 2 tons. The O3, now I'm going to say that you may or may not know Lennox's date coding information. I'm going to suggest that the technical reference guide available at the Carson Dunlop store can give you all that information. So this one was manufactured in 2003. The D is the month, so that would be April 2003. This being 2020, you might say this air conditioner is 17 years old. Here's where I'm going to ask you to think. You would not be wrong to put that in the report, but as you go through the house, if you have a look at things like the date on the underside of the toilet tank lid, the date on the Watts temperature pressure relief valve on the water heater, the dates on the window seals on the double glazed windows, it was apparent to us that the house wasn't built until 2004 because the windows weren't manufactured until 2004. So you could fairly describe this as a 16-year-old air conditioner rather than a 17. 17 wouldn't necessarily be wrong because that's when it was made, but it's only been in service since 2004. Subtle little thing, but it might be the difference between getting the job done and doing the job elegantly. Okay, so we're going to say, how long do air conditioners last in your mind? I'm going to say 10 to 15 years in our environment and our marketplace. So I'm going to say a 16-year-old air conditioner is probably at or past the end of its life expectancy. So I'm going to do that search. We're going to put in air past life. There's all kinds of words that you could put in that will make that work. And you get your result, tap and hold, take your photo, and you get your results. Now this one has preset for the location because the compressor on the air conditioner is always going to be on the exterior. The evaporator coil, very often in our market associated with the furnace, might be in the furnace room. But if it's a ductless mini split system, it could be anywhere in the house. So we choose to use exterior and refer to the compressor. Task would be replaced, time frame. You could put unknown, you could put within the next year, you could put unpredictable, whatever your philosophy tells you. That's what we do. And on this one, we have given the client a note. Again, this is a preset. We type it once and we never have to touch it again. And the note says something like, although the system is near or at the end of its life expectancy, continue to use and maintain the unit until it fails. Okay, so you can get that in. The notes can be quite long. You can get that wording exactly right and then lock it down forever. So you don't have to keep writing the same notes over and over again. And it adds consistency. One other thing to mention on this one, because an air conditioner replacement is a pretty significant cost, we have also clicked add to the summary. Now, that's a preset. You don't need to remember to do that. It's one of the things that you can forget very easily using any software. The defect you want to put to your summary as a significant item. The beauty of presets is here, you do it once, and every time that air conditioner is at the end of its life expectancy, that's a big deal, no matter what inspection you're doing. So you're going to want to put that in. Do it once, you never forget it. You're consistent, you're protected, you're elegantly professional. It is outstanding. Okay. Next thing we come to is a garage full of clutter. That looks like a significant limitation to me. So I am going to type in something radical like garage storage garage, something like that. And I get a limitation that says that the inspection was limited or prevented by the storage in the garage. Now, again, we can tap and hold and get our add photo, put the photo in, and away we go. So now we've got a limitation that's got a photo attached to it. And as I mentioned earlier, with limitations, you may or may not want to include the photo. You can deselect it when you get back to polishing your report. Up to you. A lot of inspectors leave these photos in. It's not a mistake to leave it in. I think it's a little more elegant to take it out. Don't feel strongly about that one way or the other. So there we go. We're back to save again. And everything takes you back to search every time, which is the beauty. We don't have to go back out through house systems and subsystems and so on. We don't have to jump from air conditioning to heating to electrical to structure. It's all done automatically in the background for you. So now I come across in the basement, I've got a crack in the foundation wall. Now remember I said this house is about 15, 16 years old, somewhere in there. So this crack, basement's unfinished, everything is dry. I'm not seeing any staining. I'm not seeing any efflorescence. Looks like it was patched probably early on, fairly minor amount of displacement. So I am absolutely going to record that and take a photo of it, but I'm going to describe it as a typical minor crack. So I want my client to understand that I've seen it. I didn't walk past it. And this was going to scare the average homeowner. So what you need to do, in my opinion, is record it, take a photo of it, again, tap and hold on the item, take your photo of it, and then you want to, and again, presets are magical because you're going to say the task is to monitor, and this is an ongoing process, but we add a note that says something like this. Shrinkage cracks like this are common, and as long as there's no leakage, no repairs are needed. So we're trying to reassure the client, this is not a structural problem. This is an X nuisance problem, and all you need to do is keep an eye on it that it doesn't leak again. Okay? So this is part of keeping things in perspective, not being alarmist, and not being a prisoner to a process or a system, but to think and communicate in a professional, elegant way. Okay, here's our electrical panel. Here's our electrical panel with the cover off. So remember I said at the outset, there are a few photos that we always include. This is one of them. And in fact, this is two of them because we take them as a pair and we put them side by side in the report. And you're gonna have to bear with me. The photos are stretched a little bit to fit into the modern PowerPoint thing. So I apologize, that electrical panel looks a little chubbier than it usually does. But what we're going to do is simply type in breaker's garage. We didn't have to type in electrical. We didn't have to type in description. We just cut right to the chase, breaker's garage. And so here we go, electrical description, main disconnect, service box type and location. They're breakers and they're in the garage. So tap and hold and you add your two photos and you're done. Let's move on. Same thing. Here's the furnace. There's the furnace with the cover off. Exactly the same process. Now, we can do it a number of ways. We could say gas furnace, high efficiency, which this one is. We happen to know that for high efficiency furnaces, we always say 15 to 20 year life expectancy. That's in our database. So I've typed in furnace 15 here, and it takes me to the description, tells me the typical life expectancy, and I am just going to tap and hold and add those two photos. Now, the other thing that I'm going to do is when I was looking at the furnace, let's see if I can get this guy to move. It doesn't want to move. There we go. So do you see the little puddle of water under the bottom of the Endura fan? This is pretty typical, right? So we've got some kind of condensate leakage, in the furnace. So we took our glamour shots of the furnace under description, but now we're looking and seeing a condition. So now we're going to say, okay, oh, and by the way, there's a bit of rust as well. So this has been going on for a little bit. So now we've got 2 photos of a condition. And so we're going to use our search and we're going to type in magical words like furnace condensate leak. And you don't need to type out all of that stuff. If you're talking, it's just as easy to say furnace condensate leak. If you were typing them in, I might go FURCONDLEA, and that would take you to the same place. The more you use search, as I said at the outset, the better you'll get at the shortcuts and taking advantage of all the power of it and save yourself even more time. But this is so much better than navigation. This is so much better than moving around. When we talk about things like, what's an example? Chimney's an example. So is a chimney, let me see now, is that in heating or is that in roofing because the chimney's up above the roof? What about an exhaust fan? Is an exhaust fan, let me see, exhaust fan, that could be under electrical, could be under interior. Don't fuss any of that stuff, just put in the thing. And when you start to navigate and you don't get to where you wanted to go, if you go to the wrong click, you've wasted a ton of clicks and a ton of time, and then you start to get flustered. This is just so much easier. So you can type in, and again, there's several different combinations. You'll get, as I say, very good at this very quickly. And you're gonna have to trust me on it. It just plain works. And I can also promise you, nobody believes it's gonna work for them at first until you fall in love with it. So it takes a while. There's a whole courting period before you actually fall in love. Okay, so we've got this, we've got our photo added, and we notice more presets. So furnace usually is in a furnace room. So in this case, we put the location in already, okay? What's the task on a leak for a condensate system? It's almost always gonna be repair. When do you think we should do it? How about immediately? How about as soon as possible? How about as soon as practical? All those are equally good. You can choose whichever one you like. And by the way, when I talked about streamlining, you can also streamline your lists. You can streamline, if immediately is your preference and you never use as soon as possible or as soon as practical, then get rid of those. Here's another thought. In your list of directions, some people are north, south, east, west people, and others are front, rear, left, right. I don't care which one you are, but do yourself a favor and delete the ones you don't use. You can always reset to the defaults later if you change your mind, but declutter. Elegantly simple, less is more. That's the whole process here. So show hide in the database, but when it comes to your location, task, time, streamline those two. Get rid of the junk, keep it simple. Okay, ever seen a dirty air filter? Well, heck yeah. Oh, I'm supposed to get that little thing out of the way. Sorry about that. I'm not very good at this game. So we've got a dirty air filter. So what, big deal. And again, you're going to record it because you owe your client that, but you're definitely not going to make a big deal of it. So you're going to type in dirty air filter. You could type in dirty furnace filter, DIR, FURFIL. Works just fine too. So you can say it, you can type in the short form, whatever works for you. This one we ended up with 5, but the first one was just fine. So we're going to do that. We're going to take our photo. Again, the tap and hold strategy keeps working. It's consistent. So we've built Horizon so that you become routine, and we try and allow you to be repetitive and do the same thing consistently as you go. And that way you get better at it and you get faster and it gets simpler over time. And remember, even when we said no roofing recommendations, well, we didn't need a photo, but we still did the long tap and hold because hitting that cancel button is the quickest way to get us back to where we want to go, which is back to the search screen to pick up the next issue. This is the result of years and years of thinking, testing, trying, and modifying. This is not our first rodeo. We did not just come up with this out of the gate. This has been evolving over a long time. There's a reason things behave the way they do in Horizon. Okay, what have we got here? Well, another minor defect. We've got an electrical wire that's resting on top of a supply heating ductwork, which is not ideal. Pretty easy fix, but it's not right. So we're going to report it. So we typed in wiring ductwork. By the way, if you type in wire ductwork, that works too, because Horizon in the background has been taught that wire and wiring are essentially the same thing, just like outdoor and exterior are the same, just like receptacle and outlet are the same. And don't you dare call them plugs, by the way. Plugs are on the end of the lamp cord that you push into the outlet or receptacle, okay? So you can use any words as long as they're the real words and as long as they're the right words. And again, it's not asphalt, it's asphalt, and that works much better. Okay. Again, we take our photo, we do the long tap and hold, take our photo, and we come back, and sure enough, we've got some presets in here. So the task is to correct as soon as practical. Some people would put in, this is a minor defect, easily fixed kind of thing. So if that works for you, that's great. Okay, now we're looking at the laundry tub faucets. They look great. We turn them on, and wait a minute, I've got a jet stream coming out the right side there. Okay, mercifully, the leak actually goes straight into the laundry tub, so I'm not doing any real damage. But nonetheless, the leak is the leak, and we need to report that. So we're going to type in laundry tub faucet leak, or we're going to say that. Some way we're going to get there. And again, short forms work just fine here too. So we're going to tap and hold, take the photo, and get back to the note screen, show you some presets. You're getting sick and tired of looking at it, right? Okay, here we've got a door in the main bathroom. Why am I taking a picture of a doorknob? Well, you know what? This door does not latch. When I push the door closed against this, the latch is misaligned, okay? And so a bathroom door is probably one you want to be able to have positively closed. And you might even want to be able to lock it. This one doesn't work. Another minor defect, but something you're probably going to write up. Okay, 2 photos you're probably going to take. And by the way, Horizon makes it so easy to take that second photo. It's just magical. So we're going to say door does not latch. You're going to go through, make sure you've got an interior door, doesn't latch. Okay, got it. Take your photo. And by the way, when you take your photo and you come back to this note screen, here's where you're going to get, you can take your second photo here or here. So you're right back. You've taken a photo, and the very next screen you go to allows you to go about your business, or it invites you to take another photo. So why are there 2 cameras here? This photo just allows you to take the photo. It's the one we've been using. This one allows you to take the photo and put a highlighting circle on it. I mentioned earlier, I'm not a huge fan of doing that. I think it's a bit time consuming, and we don't go overboard with it by careful design, but you can do it. You can do it here, and it's pretty quick. It's pretty easy. So you have a choice on the cameras. By the way, I should have mentioned at the outset, I'm obviously using an iOS interface here, an Apple iPhone. The Android works the same way, but because Android and Apple don't get along, they make some of their buttons look different. They may put some things in different spots. The functionality is exactly the same. Android users, iOS users, Horizon is equally efficient. It's just the interface is a tiny bit different. And actually, they are working on coming together, begrudgingly fighting, wrestling along the way. They're probably going to get closer together as we move forward. We're not quite there yet. So apologies to the Android users, but everything works the same. It looks a bit different. That's all. Okay. What else we got here? Okay, so now here we are looking at the attic. We've got beautiful pink fiberglass insulation. I'm going to put my hand down through it and make sure I've got a vapor barrier. Obviously, I'm not going to verify that the vapor barrier is intact across the whole attic, but I want to know that it's, in this case, a polyethylene vapor barrier. And remember, I said that I'm going to take my glamour shots of the attic. So just like the roof, just like the electrical panel, just like the furnace, I'm going to take 1 or 2 sample shots of the attic. And there's one view, there's another view, got some ductwork running through the attic. Okay, So it's fiberglass that's in the attic. I'm going to type in or say glass attic, or you could say fiber attic. I don't care. If it's cellulose, magically you would say cellulose attic. So there you go. You've got that. And again, we're just putting in a description here. So there's not going to be a recommendation. We're going to grab our couple of photos and away we go. Now, I'm going to change gears on you real quick, and I should have given you a transition slide so your head didn't spin, but I apologize for that. So now, what we're going to do is say, we've gotten through everything we need to get through. We have inspected the whole house. If we are a two-pass kind of inspector, we've done our two passes. We have recorded all of our defects, all the problems, and we've captured photos of them. We've got our few glamour shots, half a dozen glamour shots of the roof and the attic and the electrical panel and so on. If there's a crawl space, we take one of the crawl space. Now what I want to do is get rid of what I call the necessary evil, all the required items, all the descriptions and limitations that you have to put in to meet your standards of practice. And I've ranted about this a little bit before. I don't think your clients love or even care very much about this stuff, but you've got to put it in too. If you're working in a regulated jurisdiction, you've got to do it to comply with your licensing laws. If you're following standards, you've probably got to substantially comply with the standards. So required items are our completion check or our safety net or our quality assurance tool, and SpeedWrite is our super magical way to get that going. I was probably supposed to do another poll somewhere along the line, Brian, but I've long since forgotten. It wasn't about SpeedWrite, right?
It was not about SpeedWrite, it was about search.
Okay, yeah, I can't believe that you would let me forget about that.
You were
Sorry
on a
about
good
that.
and I didn't want to let you go. So
All right. So what I'm going to tell you about SpeedWrite, and the last time we did a poll on this, the majority of our viewers were not using it. I would really, really love you to use it. It's the fastest way to get through all this nonsense. And by the way, it is also designed specifically to discourage you from stopping and adding notes, stopping and adding photos. For the most part, I don't want notes or photos attached to this necessary evil junk you have to put in. Waste no time on it. I want you also to be brave enough to do it at the end of the inspection, having taken not a single note or photo of any of these issues as you've gone through. Remember, you went through looking at everything in the home to see if there was a problem, a defect, a condition. So you've looked at everything. Now you're going to let SpeedWrite pull that subconscious data out of your head and put it into the report. So it again is a bit counterintuitive. It takes a bit of a leap of faith, and you'll have to convince yourself by trying it a few times. But I can tell you, you can go through a house without taking any of these notes, and you will very quickly get everything nailed down on this. And again, there's probably 50 items in total. Remember, in this report, we've added a bunch of them through a template already because we knew this was a very cookie cutter house. But you can go through these. And if you've forgotten to put in something, like let's say it's the size of the water heater. If you forget, you just walk over to the water heater and you capture that piece of information and you put it in. But I can promise you, having forgotten it once, you probably won't forget it again. You're probably cured. And the next time you do inspection, you'll make a note of the size of the water heater. Whatever those issues are, you will become very good very quickly. But everybody I say this to looks at me sideways. They don't really believe that it works. They don't believe they can do it. I'm going to say, please, please, please give it a try. Give it a shot. It does work. Okay. So if I click SpeedWrite, oh shoot, I got the foot in the wrong order. Let's just carry on with SpeedWrite. Okay, here we go. So here's the magic. So this kind of looks like the data entry screens that you navigate through, with one exception. You don't navigate. So here we are, and we've got flat roofing material invitation. So a lot of houses in our area have flat roofs. This cursor doesn't want to work very well, never mind it. So let me see if I can get it going there. There we go. So when I have an item like this, so roofing description, flat roofing material, by the way, it says SpeedWrite up at the top here to remind you you're not in the database and remind you you're in SpeedWrite. So I don't have a flat roof on this house. So I just click next, it takes me to the next item. Now, I don't have a crawl space either. I'm going to click next and away I go. And it takes me to the next item. Now, in this case, we've got breakers and we know where, oh, wait a minute, this is auxiliary panel, no auxiliary panel. We'll just hit next. Electrical inspection limitations. Were there any restricted areas, storage, insulation? Was the power off in some areas? No, we can just go next. Okay, the furnace, approximate age, speed rate. This furnace was about 9 years old, so you just click 9, and you don't have to click next. Once you make an entry, once you click that 9, you just go to the next screen automatically. Now, if there were 2 furnaces and you wanted to put in 2 ages, you can just go back to previous, or you can turn off the auto advance for a second. This little green slide bar, if I slide that to the left, it stops the screen from automatically advancing every time I make one entry. So fireplace or wood stove, this house has a gas fireplace. So I click gas fireplace and away I go. I go to the next one. Okay, was there any heating limitations? System off? No. And you come to know these very quickly. Okay, nothing here. We're just going to hit next. Okay, fireplace or wood stove, quality of chimney draw cannot be determined. That's probably true. So I'm going to click that. And at the same time, I'm going to say, hey, this might be an opportunity to use customize, because that's always going to be true. And I'd really love to get that into my report. Using customize, you can take an item like this, add it to your reports permanently, and never have to think about it again. So lots of easy solutions there. And as soon as I click on that, I'm in my next screen. Heat exchanger not visible. Again, that's true, but it's probably always true. So I can probably find more shortcuts to get around even doing that, as quick as that is. So I look at it. So there's my air conditioner. We said it was 16 years old there. So that took 2 seconds, 3 seconds. How long do air conditioners last? In our market, 10 to 15 years typically. So you look at it, you click it, it takes you to the next, and that's it. Were there any limitations? Well, if it was the winter and it was the outdoors, you would click low outdoor temperature, so you couldn't test it. Was the power off? No, everything was fine here. We're just going to hit next. How much insulation was in the attic? R32, those fiberglass bats we looked at. Okay, done. Were there any limitations? Well, yeah, this house actually had a cathedral ceiling in the living room. So I'm going to say this roof space, I could not inspect the insulation. So I'm going to click roof space was a limitation. Okay. How did I inspect the attic? From the access hatch. By the way, we do not enter the attics in our market because of the depth of insulation typical. I don't want our inspectors putting their feet through insulation, feeling for the bottom cord of a truss or feeling for a ceiling joist, because if it happens to be cracked or broken, or there happens to be a wire there, you can get into trouble. So we typically just inspect the attic from the access hatch. So again, if it's 100% of the time, you can make that automatically set, but you can also have it here in required items. So I'm going to click from the access hatch, away I go. How big was the water heater? 50 gallons. Now I'm going to pause there, because you probably either think in gallons or you think in liters. I am going to encourage you to refine, horizon, and sharpen your tools. So if you think in gallons, get rid of all the liter ones. If you think in liters, get rid of all the gallon ones. It just declutters your database, makes it quicker and easier for you to go. So I can say 50 gallons, I can say 189 liters. They both mean the same thing, but you're going to communicate in the language, at least I hope you will, that most of your clients will understand. So keep it simple, get rid of the extra stuff, and move quickly. Okay. So water heater, approximate age. This one is about 9 years old. So you click that and away you go. How long do water heaters last? This is a conventional one, so it lasts 8 to 12 years. Some of the combo units last 10 to 15, and our tankless units in our area, I'm going to say 10 to 20 years. So depending on the type, you know what it is. It's standard. You're going to 8 to 12 and you're done. Any limitations? Was the water turned off or the system winterized? No. I'm going to hit next and move on. Any fixtures I could not inspect? No. The outdoor faucets were on. Hit next and away I go. By the way, here's another customized opportunity for you in Horizon. If you call them outdoor faucets, then you can customize this title and get rid of the word hose bib and hose bibs. If you call them hose bibs, there are two ways, and about 50% of the world spells it with two B's and 50% use three B's. I don't care what you do, but you can customize it to suit what you think is the right way. We've put all three in here because we're trying to be all things to all people, but I want you to refine that. I want you to sharpen your tool and use the words that your clients will understand. Okay, any interior limitations, carpet, storage, furnishings. This is going to be a bit of a business call for you. There's most often going to be carpet. Are you going to put that in as a ongoing limitation or not? Up to you. In most houses, unless they're vacant, there are going to be storage and furnishings. So you can choose one of these. If you choose two, again, turn the auto advance off for a second, select both, and then hit next. If you forget to do that and you just enter carpet and then say, oh shoot, I wanted to pick up storage as well, just hit previous and it'll take you back and you can make your second entry. So again, Horizon is forgiving and it accommodates and it makes it quick and easy. Most of the time you're going to select one item. So as soon as you select it, it auto advances to the next. If you don't want to do that, then you can stop and fuss. So we have gone through, I'm going to say we added about 25 items there, and I was rambling the whole time. I'm going to suggest that might take you 4 minutes, 5 minutes maybe. And again, the quicker you get, the more you do it, the less time it'll take. So report writing is a whole different thing. By the way, we're still on site doing this. We're not counting the timer on report writing once we get back. And now we'll finish up the inspection, leave the property, say goodbye to the client, and we're going to go and we're going to polish, proof, and publish our report. You might do it in your truck. You might do it in a coffee shop, although that's harder with COVID. You might go back to your office or home and do it there. And so polish, proof, and publish. So I want you to do those three things. Now, I have a strategy for that too. So let's take a look. And how are we doing for time, Brian? I'm at the hour, so I'm going to move lightning quick through here.
You are at the hour. One thing just to point out as you're going through, make sure as you're going through that to highlight the ability to preset.
Sorry, say that again, Brian. I couldn't hear you.
Pardon me. Make sure to highlight the ability to preset if you could be so kind.
I will try and do that if I can remember. Okay, so here's the first page. There's our title page photo. It's appeared. We've got our standard title page, standard cover letter. Away we go. And we've got a summary. Remember the air conditioner that was worn out? So it shows in here. So what I'm setting up here is having a look at the first part of the report, making sure it does what I want. I've got my intro here. By the way, we're going to make this report available to the folks tonight, Brian. Is that right? In some way, shape, or form?
Yes, we will.
Okay, good stuff. So we've got, and I just want to go through, make sure I've got everything right, got my photo in there, all good. Okay. Now, when I start to go through, here's what I like to do. I like to preview the report, which is what I've done on the left now. So I'm looking at the pages of the report, and I do a split screen. If I have two monitors, I put it on two monitors. If I have one big monitor, I put the report writing input side up on the right side and the preview of the report. So as I look through the preview, I can find anything that's missing or incorrect, and I can immediately fix it over here on the right side. So I love this two-phased approach. So going through here, everything looks good. We're talking about the clogged gutters and so on. Horizon has automatically dropped in three things for us, actually. It's dropped in the illustration, it's dropped in the implication, and it's added a link so that clients can learn more about clogged gutters if they want to go read a technical article. I didn't need to do any of those things. Horizon does all that in the background. It appears in the report output for you. You can, of course, customize and remove and edit the illustrations. By the way, with the new customizability, you can also go in and preset any illustrations you want to any items that you want. And If you don't think the ones that we've pre-selected are ideal, you can scratch those and get rid of them. So, and again, depending on your area, you may find the illustration works perfectly, or it doesn't, or you may find a better one in Horizon that you can use. We've got 1,700 illustrations, so the odds are you're going to find what you're looking for. Okay. And as we go through here, so I'm looking at this and I say, oh, wait a minute, there's no location for this one. Well, that's because, oh yeah, on the downspouts, we said that you don't know where the downspouts going to be. So although we've got a preset and this automatically filled in here, it did not fill in the location. So I come over here to my node screen for the downspout recommendation. I can type in my location. I've already got my task and time. I can edit those if I'm not happy with them. But to Brian's point, here is where the presets get set. Now this one's already got 2 presets. So it says default text is set. So this button right here allows you to put in location, task, time. It allows you to put in notes. It allows you to decide whether to add it to the summary. Click the preset button and you'll never have to touch it again. One and done. There we go. Okay, I am going to gloss through the rest of these really quickly. Okay. And you can just look and see where I am looking. Here's another one where I don't have a location. So I come back over here and I can put the location in. So type it in. So that I keep going through the preview, and wherever I find a gap in the preview, I make the entry on the report writing interface, and I leave the same preview up the whole time. So I'm just moving through very. Okay. Here's one where inspected from attic access hatch to make an additional comment. So I come over here and I type in a note, and the note talks about not being able to get to some of the roof because of the cathedral ceiling. Okay, so you can see how easy it is to check your work. This is the polish part. So I'm polishing and proofreading at the same time. Does this make sense? Oh, there's no location here. Again, I'm just going to add the location. There we go. Method. You get the idea. There's what I like about 2 photos side by side, and kind of landscape works great. There's our 2 glamour shots of the electrical panel, cover on, cover off. And I did have the item there, but let's not belabor that point too much. Let's keep moving. Okay. And we go through, and again, we just a quick overview. The illustration is dropped in, my 2 side-by-side photos of the problem with the condensate drain, my glamour shots of the furnace. You may notice in this report that we have set up the recommendations to come first, the description second, and the limitations third. You can have it in whatever order you want. We do it this way because we think the clients are most interested in our recommendations. That's what's most critical to them. So we put those first in every section. You can disagree and you can have it any way you like. Okay. Same thing here. We've got, in this case, we said the air conditioner power was turned off, and we want to add a note to that. And the note is that's typical in the winter. And of course, that's true. So that would be a seasonal note that you might add. You might have it turned on part of the year, turned off part of the year. Okay. And here's another one, that roof space issue. Could get a look at in the, and I'm okay with, there's a bit of repetition here and I want to explain why. So in the structure section, we said we couldn't see the whole roof space because part of it had a cathedral ceiling. So that limits my structure inspection. On the insulation part of the report, it also limits my insulation inspection. So in both cases, I put in the fact that we couldn't get there because there was no attic space for part of the roof. It's a small duplication, but if you ever get someone following up and pressing you on it, why didn't you pick this up? Having that limitation in there twice, it took me about 3 seconds to add it each time. So that's one that is kind of a big enough deal. I don't mind putting it in twice, once for structure, once for insulation. If you disagree, put it in once by all means. I'm just telling you what I like to do. Okay, there's our laundry tub faucet. Again, we didn't have a location for it, so we drop it in, away we go. There's our door that doesn't latch, and we're at the end. Okay, so Brian, I think we made it. I only rambled on a bit too long. I'm going to pause there, and a couple of things. I think we might be at a good spot to take some questions. Did want to mention next month, we're going to do August 12th, so that's just less than a month from now. And we're going to talk about reviews, how to get great reviews and how to make them work for you. So bit of a change of pace for next month, but hope you'll join us for that. Now, Brian, there's only 2 questions, so we can answer those quickly and be gone. Is that right?
There certainly are. First and foremost, how to create a preset. No, we'll save that for later on. Maybe we'll tackle that after some other relevant questions or other questions similar in vein. So first and foremost, we have here, excuse me, Ross has a question. In your previous webinars, you stated you don't like fluff, but you're showing some pictures of electrical panels. Sort of seems like fluff. Provide some clarity.
Fair point. Absolutely. If you don't like them, don't put them in. I have an inspection manager who's been around for a few years who, and we have had this discussion more than once actually. He is experienced enough that I believe him when he tells me that he can make a number of things go away very quickly by proving that you did this and proving that the furnace did not look like that at the time, or the electrical panel did not have that issue at the time. And so it has helped him often enough that we put it in. Is it fluff? It's defensive for sure. Whether it's fluff is somewhat subjective. So I take your point. I wouldn't disagree if you left it out. Our guy who I work with and who has to deal with all the issues that come up has asked us to put it in, and it has become a habit for all of our folks, and I absolutely respect if you choose not to do that. So you might take the same position about the roofing photo, about the photo of the attic, about a photo of a crawl space. If you can leave those out and it doesn't hurt you, good for you. Better still, streamline, less is more. You're absolutely right. That's more towards my philosophy. This is one where I've been pulled back from the brink of my philosophy by an in-house person who deals with complaints on. Now, remember, we do several thousand inspections a year. So everybody is interested in their world and their life. He's trying to minimize the pain in his life, and he finds that this has been a big enough deal that has helped him a bunch of times. So I'm going to respect that, but I would not disagree with you that on the surface, you might argue that it's fluff. Fair point.
Hey, thanks for the answer. I think it provides good context, right? You're able to see the certain items and they're very critical to the eye. So good position both ways. Thank you for that, Alan. Carl, I hope that I don't butcher this, and if I do, Alan's going to correct me. How would you say modified bituminous roofing?
I would say mod bit.
Wow. Don't cheat there, Alan.
The correct pronunciation is modified. It's either modified bitumen or bituminous. So bituminous is an adjective, and so you wouldn't say modified bituminous. You'd say modified bitumen because bitumen's a noun, or you would say bituminous roofing because bituminous is then the adjective for the word roofing. So mod bit is what the trade people call it. You wouldn't say that to your client, and I was being facetious there because that's a shortcut. But what you would put in your report typically would be modified bitumen, and that's how it's pronounced, bitumen.
Hey, thank you very much, Alan. I appreciate that a lot. Now, shrubs being a limitation, would something like that also warrant a recommendation? Or pardon me, inversely, you create a recommendation, but it's also a limitation. Sorry, I misread that. The shrubs you created as a recommendation, but it's also inversely a limitation. Should you add that there as well?
That's a great question. I did gloss over that in the presentation in the interest of time. If I'm inferring the question correctly, the limitation is that you can't inspect that part of the siding and the base of the foundation where the shrubs have overgrown. And that's a fair comment. So putting in a limitation that access should be gained and that should be inspected is fair enough. I didn't go into that level. Would we on site? I'm going to say that would depend on the extent to which the system was concealed, the foundation and the wall. So we get to make a million judgment calls in the home inspection profession, and that would be one of them. So if it's a relatively small localized area, I might not document that. But if it was a substantial one, there was an interesting situation actually in that one. I won't go back to the photo in the interest of saving time, but those shrubs were around a bay window. And when we inspected around there and criticized the shrubs, interestingly, the underside, it's actually a bow window, not a bay window, by the way. Bay windows come all the way down to the ground. Bow windows don't necessarily, and oriel windows, which is the correct name that nobody uses, are actually suspended. These windows were suspended, and when you got down on your knees and looked up underneath, what you saw was unfinished pressure-treated plywood on the underside of the bay or oriel window. So there was actually another defect under there. I didn't put it in the report in the interest of time here, but you make a great point. Yes, that's a limitation. It may or may not be relevant. It may or may not be a big enough limitation to warrant putting in the report. And that, unfortunately, is the challenge of what we do. We have to make some judgment calls along the way. I've cheated a little bit here because Brian wouldn't let me talk for 3 hours, but it's a great question. And my answer is kind of depends how big a scope it was. This was about a 15-foot section of a perimeter that was probably 150 feet, so 10%. So we did not go that far with that one, although I would not describe it as wrong if you did.
Thank you, Alan. Victoria's question about during the mobile app portion, I didn't see any implications. What's going on?
That's a great observation, and you're absolutely right. The implications do not display. I'm going to break Horizon apart. Horizon is an input interface and a report output interface. The input is streamlined, so you don't see any implications, you don't see any of the technical articles, you don't see any of the illustrations while you're inputting data. And the reason for that is because we're just trying to input data. When you preview, when you look at the report output interface, what the client is going to see, it's completely different. So you'll only see implications, the illustrations, and the technical article links on the output side, the preview or the published report PDF. Hope that makes sense and answers the question.
No, it certainly does, Alan. A couple of people have just asked how you did the split screen, and I know that's sort of a little beyond what we're going to cover tonight, but I just want to let people know that we will be following up with all of those more technical questions in a separate email, so that will be addressed, and we'll give you some brief explanations on how you can sort of split the screen things. But I believe Alan's main suggestion there is if you have 2 monitors, take advantage of that instead, kind of thing, right, Alan?
Yeah, there's with the power of modern technology, there's lots of ways to skin that cat. And to be honest with you, I had always done it, but I found a better way to do it about 6 months ago that somebody showed me. So it's one of the great things about our support team. And if you put the question to Brian, to Ariel, whether it's by phone or by email, you can get a tip on that real quick. And yeah, the split screen, if you're not doing it, absolutely. The learning curve is probably 30 seconds to figure out how to do it. So it's quick and easy, and it really does make that report writing, especially the last step, so much easier, so much faster.
Perfect. Appreciate that, Alan. And again, yeah, we'll take care of and follow up with everyone there. And I do apologize if I mispronounce your name. Omakano? I apologize if I mispronounced that, but a question with regards to presets. Are they done on the computer side or the mobile app?
Great question.
Omakano?
They are done on the website, on the report writing. So Horizon's Command Central is the web interface of Horizon. And Horizon Mobile is the field data collection tool. So I do not want you, and in fact, Horizon doesn't let you customize, do presets, show hide, all of that stuff should be done when you're sitting in the quiet of your own home or your own office and working on the web interface. When you're out in the field, your priority is to perform the inspection, take care of the client, represent the house as accurately as you can, and use the tool to facilitate collecting that data quickly, efficiently, and unobtrusively. So I don't want you editing the tool or polishing or refining or sharpening the tool when you're out in the field with a client. It's designed that way for a reason. Again, good question. It's the Horizon Mobile is the let's get to work and get it done side of Horizon. All that customizing I talked about, the show hide, the presets, all that stuff is done back on the website.
Excellent, thank you. And next question is, do you recommend, no pun intended, setting up presets for all of your recommendations?
It's an interesting question because that is a ton of work. What I'm going to suggest is the ones that, if you look back at through your reports, you will find, and by the way, there's a tool in Horizon and Profile to help you do the report output analysis. You can put all your report outputs into Excel and see which recommendations you use most often. So the recommendations that you use regularly should have presets. There are some that you will only use once every 6 months or once a year. Not entirely sure it's worth it for those, but certainly the ones that you use regularly, that makes good sense. And again, you have to be sensible about it. There are some times when the location, for example, doesn't really apply. So you have to make sure that your preset doesn't get you into trouble because you do it and then use it in a recommendation where it doesn't fit or doesn't apply. I would say the same thing about templates. And I didn't drill into this. We could spend a fair bit of time talking about templates. They're a double-edged sword in the sense that when I hit that one button, it made 27 entries for me all at once. What are the odds that one of them may not have applied in that particular house? Well, with that particular one, I was pretty comfortable. But with a lot of templates, you have to be careful. And that's why I said polish, proofread, and publish. I didn't say polish and publish, because you need to proofread the reports, because presets can trip you up and templates can trip you up if the house is a bit of an anomaly. So if the house had been part of that subdivision and 16 years old, but someone had done a big addition on it and the foundation had been slab on grade instead of a basement, if the wall structure had been solid masonry instead of wood frame vinyl siding, the template would not have applied. And it's the same with your presets. So use them on the ones that you most frequently enter conditions on, and still be prepared that you might need to tweak them. So double-edged sword, saves a ton of time, but if you're careless with the use of them, they can make you look stupid.
Thank you, Alan. Just getting here tons, there's actually really tons of questions. Now, Roger's question, I noticed that a lot of illustrations were coming up. Was there something that you were doing to trigger that, or why or how are those illustrations appearing in the report?
Great question. It is absolutely effortless. The illustrations appear automatically. So in Horizon, out of the box, we have attached several hundred illustrations to several hundred specific defects. In the customized feature of Horizon, you can go in and you can unselect our illustrations, add other ones out of the illustrated home database. And so you can set those up to suit yourself. We have some, and I'm going to say there's some recommendations about foundation cracks, for example, and there's sometimes as many as 4 illustrations in there. And you may find that not all of those illustrations apply either in the area you're working in your market or your region, or they may not apply to every house or every crack. So you can edit the illustrations on a per report basis. You can just go in and get rid of them. You can also set up the illustrations to always appear with that defect. So once you are set up, and it goes back to my sharpening your tools comment right at the very beginning. Once you get those set up, the illustrations just drop in for you and everything flows. I think we give you a really good running start with that out of the gate with Horizon, but you are welcome to tweak that and add or subtract as you see fit.
Excellent. David has a question here, and I noticed that your report output showed, a recommendation with 2 photos plus an illustration. How do you get that? How is it structured and such? Was it?
The way it works, and again, this is the power of Horizon, and I love the questions because this speaks to how powerful the back end of Horizon is, and people don't understand and don't appreciate it, in my opinion. You're working on an input screen, and it might be on Horizon Mobile, it might be on the web, but at the end of the day, when you are ready to generate that report, it takes everything you've put in, plus it takes the automatic illustrations, implications, and technical articles that are associated with those, and it magically creates a professional document with numbered pages and elegant output, and the illustrations appear first. The photo will appear below it, and if you do 2 photos, Horizon is strategically sized and designed that the 2 photos go side by side, whether they are landscape or portrait. So you end up with this very nice array. It's one of the reasons I really like 2 photos. They fill the width of the page, they look great, and that macro micro concept where you take a picture of the furnace and then you take a close-up of the leaking condensate area, and the client immediately visually gets the story, and it's beautiful. And then the illustration above is kind of that cross-sectional theoretical, what does it really look like, what are things doing? And the illustrations are very carefully labeled so you can understand at a layman's level what's going on. So looking at the photos helps and sees it in real life, but the illustrations help to describe what's going on that may not be apparent from the photos. And that all happens. Remember when I said with Horizon Mobile, when you collect the defect, long tap or tap and hold, take the photo, and then you're done. What I didn't make the point of is if you're using a camera to take your photos, and you can certainly do that, and a lot of inspectors do, but here's what I don't like about it. Now I've got Horizon Mobile in one hand, I've got a camera in the other. Secondly, when I take a photo with the camera, how do I get the photos out of the camera? Well, I've got to take the photos out of the camera in whatever tool I'm going to use, whether it's a wired connection or whether I'm taking a card out of the camera. I've got to put the photos into my computer. I've got to put them in a folder. I've got to take those photos from my computer and I've got to load them into Horizon. And now I've got them in Horizon, but they're not associated with anything. So now I've got to take, if I've got 50 or 75 photos, now I've got to do this hunt and peck and connecting the dots to figure out which photo goes with which issue. If you use Horizon Mobile, it's all done for you and you don't have to fuss with that. Entering the data and entering the photo at the same time, it cuts out all that noise. It cuts out all that time. You just tap and hold the items in the right spot. You take the photo, the whole process is 10 or 20 seconds and you're done. And the report is finished, but for polishing, proofing, and publishing.
Thank you, Alan.
Sorry, I
Just in the
can't help
interest of
getting
time, if we could get, I know, very passionate. Because I want to try to get a few more questions in, if we maybe be a bit more succinct, if you could, I'd greatly appreciate it there.
Sorry, Brian.
Now I struggle to ask this next question. What is the most difficult part of a home inspection?
The most difficult part of a home inspection, I don't think there is a difficult part of a home inspection. You might, okay, a difficulty comes when you have some clues that don't take you to a conclusion. A difficult part of a home inspection is you see some anomalies, but you can't figure out exactly what's going on because you don't have enough data. And the correct thing to do in the report is say, I don't have enough data to give you a conclusion. Short answer for you, Brian.
I know. Thank you very much, Alan. Scott has a question. When I got in the industry, ever said photos, photos, photos. So I used to take hundreds. Now, using the mobile app exclusively, I take far less. So kudos. But what are your thoughts? At CD, you're talking about your head inspector there. On average, what was he or she, or your team roughly take?
I'm going to say 50, maybe 75 on a difficult or a big house. I think most inspectors take way too many photos.
Think kindly. We will then, let me see here. Do you feel you should write more about what needs repaired or fixed? And that was from Ryan.
I think you should write less, and that's why when I constructed Horizon, the word task is typically associated with a word or a short phrase: repair, replace, improve, correct, clean, monitor, further evaluation. There are probably 25 in the list, and you can add your own, by the way, and you can hide the ones you don't want. But I don't want you writing a specification for how to fix something. That's not your role, that's not your responsibility, and frankly, it's not your privilege. The professional who is going to do the work should be entitled to solve the problem in the way that he or she sees fit. So we are there to say, here's a problem, it needs to be corrected, full stop.
Thank you. Christopher has a question. Is there an easy way to add all of your recommendations to the summary? I think that's maybe presetting. Second question, or aside from that, is there a way to delete standard Carson Dunlop items? Why would you? Just kidding.
Okay, two things. Yes, there is a way to add all your recommendations to the summary, but if you're going to do that, don't use a summary. That's a ridiculous duplication to me. Secondly, yes, with Customize, you can get rid of all the stupid Carson Dunlopisms that you like. You can hide them, the show hide, you can hide anything you want in Horizon. You can customize what you don't like. That's the power of the tool that nobody uses. I love the question. Yes, you can do whatever you say. That doesn't apply to me. I hate that language. I hate that style. I never see that. It's not an issue. Get rid of it. Clear the decks of all the junk that you don't want or use. Absolutely.
Ray has a question. When you are using the tap and hold approach, it eliminates the location task time cost screen, right? Or the middle screen, right? And why is that? What's the intention? Why do you do that partial? Why do you feel that's better than the three-step process?
Because of what I said at the beginning about if you have a client with you, by the way, you can still get back to there and you can do that. But the reason we don't take you automatically to the location, task, time, and cost screen when you are entering that data, and why, if the long tap bypasses that. So if you just tapped on the item, you would go there. So the tap and hold bypasses that, but it bypasses it quite intentionally, because in most cases, and I am still working in my old paradigm, I really believe the client should be with you on the inspection. If the client's there, I don't want you taking the time to be adding location, task, time, cost, notes, and whether it goes to the summary with the client standing there, tapping his foot, wondering what the heck you're doing. I've tried to make it so that it's quick and easy to do automatically. And when you come back afterwards, you can't possibly forget the item because you've made the entry and put a photo in. So yes, you can do location, task, time, and cost in the comfort of your own truck or coffee shop or house after, when you're not having the client staring at you wondering what the heck you're doing. So you can do it, but my preferred process is the one I showed you.
Thank you, Alan. David, who is a new Horizon user, so welcome to the community, first and foremost, David. And he's actually got a one-up on you. He's watched, so unbeknownst to a lot of people, Alan actually had a recording of this inspection he did. And David has watched that recording, and he noticed that during that recording, you happened to do a recall check, which we've omitted tonight in the interest of time. But when you were doing the recall, did you stop during the specific spots, like for example, the AC and furnace, and take those boilerplate photos and associate them into the appropriate ancillary?
Great question, two-part answer. First of all, just a quick explanation of recall check. Horizon has a magical relationship with Recall Check, which is a safety recall service that gives clients at the time of inspection and for as long as they own their home, notices of safety recalls on the heating, air conditioning, water heater, and major appliances in the house. To answer the question, as we're doing the furnace, air conditioner, and water heater, we will capture the recall check. You don't have to type in anything, you just take a photo of the data plate. That's the magic. And then recall check takes the photo and figures out whether there's a recall. You don't have to type in a model or serial number or a manufacturer. You select the manufacturer, take that photo, and you're done. On the rest of the major appliances, I do those at the end. So your stove, your dishwasher, refrigerator, your clothes washer, clothes dryer, microwave, we do those in a bundle because they're usually in the kitchen and laundry area together. We do those at the end of the inspection. So the furnace as we go, air conditioner as we go, because they're remote. And then with the furnace, you often have to take the cover off to take a photo of the data plate as well. So furnace, air conditioner, and water heater. So we'll do those as we go. The other kitchen appliances and laundry appliances we do at the end.
Thank you. Matt has a question. Now, with regard to templates, right, and presets, Matt, I'm going to go on the assumption based on the question, you're a new inspector because you say before my first inspection, I'm assuming not just with Horizon. If you're talking holistically as a first new inspection, I'm going to run with that. If you're talking about just with Horizon in general, I don't know, maybe you want a two-part answer, but should Matt set up any templates or presets before his very first inspection, be it as a newbie and or someone who's maybe transitioning from other piece of software and who has some experience under their belt? If you could maybe address both spectrums.
I would not make that a priority. I would get to know the database. I would get to be comfortable with it. To me, the templates and the presets are advanced shortcut tools. And yeah, I would probably get 25 to 50 inspections under my belt. I would start to learn what I do repetitively, what defects I see most often in the houses I inspect, and maybe more inspections. I would not rush on that, especially since your thinking will probably evolve as you get more experience in the profession or more experience with Horizon as you come to know its database better. I would actually hold off doing that out of the gate.
And if you were a more seasoned person moving from a different software, same kind of a recommendation or no?
To a lesser extent, I would, if you're coming from a different software, you're not familiar with the Horizon database. You're familiar with what kind of defects you typically see. So I would still go through a familiarization process and get to know the database a bit before I leapt into it. So whereas I might wait a few months for, if you were a new inspector, I might wait for perhaps a month or so if I were a seasoned inspector. Slightly different answer.
Thank you, Alan. Lou, I think this is actually a great segue for our presentation, which Alan has on screen, is how would you, direct a new completed student on starting up his or her own business? So, we've been talking about how to write a good quality report and what to do on site. What we're talking about next month, Alan?
Well, next month we're going to talk about a tool that is available in Horizon that we have used to great advantage over the years. The tool is called Listen 360. It's a review tool, and I won't get into any detail other than to say it's a terrific way to build your business. It's a terrific way to get positive feedback. It's a terrific way to get it automatically out there without you having to do anything. So it's a hands-off, elegant tool. We've got Horizon Marketer, which is a whole different presentation. And let me just very quickly, Brian, say, Horizon is not just a report writing tool, although that's its core. It's also a scheduling system. It's also an archiving system. It's also a marketing system. So there are a ton of things to Horizon that will help you get started with your business as well. We talk about those in some of the webinars. There's lots of tutorials. So it's a great question. It's a long answer, but yeah, stay tuned next month for one chapter in that answer.
And not to plug my own training, but we do offer weekday training for every user. We have live training sessions that you're able to attend to cover every aspect of the program. So if you are looking at how to use Horizon Market or anything else, all you have to do is visit our training site, register, and watch some of those sessions live. Warren has a question about data plates. Are they easily accessible, or do you find you're needing to pull out appliances to read them?
Generally speaking, they're pretty easily accessible. You'll come to learn very quickly, and our guys can help you with that, where they typically are. Generally speaking, you don't have to dismantle anything to find. On an oven, for example, you typically, or a range, you have to open the door, and it's usually on the inside there. Same with the dishwasher. Fridges, it's often on the inside of the upper level of the cabinet. Microwaves, often on the inside of the door. So they're usually protected because people don't want to see them from a cosmetic standpoint, but they're not very hard to find for the most part. And actually, there's lots of stuff on the internet about how to find data plates on appliances. So it feels a little daunting, but again, your learning curve is going to be less than half an hour.
Awesome. And thank you for the question, Warren. It's great to see you. Warren, I think we've seen you in every single webinar, so it's always great to see repeat users coming in, participating, longtime users. Love it. And let me see, we've got, I think, time for one more question, and then we shall end for the evening. How difficult is it to add additional tabs to your reports? Like you're talking about recalls, for example. Maybe is there any environmental, or if I have a suggestion for an ancillary, like, electric, magnetic, things like that. What's the best course of action? How do we, get that underway, Alan?
Well, we have about 30 sitting on the shelf, and it's as easy as reaching out to our support team, Brian, Ariel, and so on. John can help you with it as well. And so we can point you to them. We can turn them on for you. You don't have to do anything. You just have to ask for them. They are, generally speaking, free. There's no additional fee for them. And if you have special ones you want us to build, we can build them for you. We charge an hourly rate based on the amount of work that we have to do to build it for you. And again, reaching out to Brian or Ariel is a terrific place to start with that. Depending on what you're looking for, we may already have it sitting in the wings waiting for you.
Thank you. Folks, at this point, we are getting near to the quarter hour, and although we did plan to end at 9, we always have such good engagement. So first, do want to apologize if anyone is upset by the delay or length of time, but this has been really good content. I think everyone's benefited a lot from it. I've learned quite a bit, Alan. Do you have sort of any final parting remarks you'd like to add in? Anything as a closing in there, Alan?
Only, first of all, to say thank you to those of you who gave up your evening and stuck around for an hour and 3/4. I appreciate that. I appreciate how much you care. I appreciate how seriously you take your profession and your craft. And lastly, I just want to say we have built so much into Horizon over 15 years that I so desperately want all of you to have it work as well as it possibly can for you. And most people don't spend enough time to set it up to meet their needs. And they end up spending more time writing each and every report than they need to because they don't take a bit of time up front. That would be my single piece of advice to you is watch the tutorials, go to Brian's webinars, call our support people, take advantage of the tool, get it set up the way that it'll work best for you. It doesn't have to be my way. I don't care about that. I want it to work for you.
Thank you very much, Alan. Great words of wisdom. A lot of insight. I'm sure everyone is thinking and digesting everything you've said. Again, folks, next month, how to grow your business, one review at a time. Some great insights and tips and tricks on maximizing all of your marketing and making sure you get some 5-star reviews because no one wants that lingering 1 star. Thank you for your participation, everyone. Thank you for your questions. And again, anyone who asked more of a technical question like, how do I do split screen? How do I set up a preset? Things that we're maybe not able to showcase tonight, we will follow up, or I more specifically will follow up and address that with you in an email. So you will have those instructions. It may take a day, but I guarantee you by Friday at the latest, everyone will have those instructions and information. They'll also be included in the follow-up email that we send to everyone. So thank you very much for your attendance, everyone. Hope to see you next month in our community webinar on Wednesday, August 12th. Good luck on any upcoming inspections, and thanks again for choosing Horizon.
And I just wanted to very quickly say thank you to Brian, who makes my life so much easier and does yeoman service. Brian works about 7 days a week, and as near as I can tell, 12 hours a day. So he puts a ton of stuff into these sessions, and I do appreciate it. Thank you, Brian.
You're very kind, Alan. I appreciate that a lot, sir. Folks, I guarantee you those emails will be responded to. You will get the links to tutorials, all the help that you need. So I'll speak out to you, Victoria, David, Jonathan, Antron, and everyone else very shortly. Have a great evening, and thanks for choosing Horizon, everyone.
Good night, all.